welcome to yet another episode here at Advertisements. Today, we're going to be talking about digital marketing. Along with my regular host, Mohammed, we also have Shanali, who's an expert in digital markets. Hi, Mohammed.
Hi, Hasnain. How are you?
I'm well.
Great.
You excited about today's episode?
I'm hot and bothered.
Why are you bothered?
Well, because it's really hot in Florida, right?
Right. Okay, fair enough. Hi, Shanali.
Hey Hasnain, how's it going?
Thank you for being here with us on this exciting episode. We know you're an expert and we're going to pick your brain with regards to the subject. So be prepared. So, Mohammed, digital marketing. Any thoughts?
I feel that digital marketing is now an integral part of any business. It doesn't matter whether you're a startup or not, but it is vital because everyone and anyone is now socially adaptable.
Yes. And if you remember, we in our previous episode, we talked about brand.
Correct,
So I guess instead of talking about just marketing, we wanted to embrace the digital and cover the entire gamut.
Absolutely. And, as part of branding, obviously digital marketing is going to play a humongous role.
With that, what I'd like to do is get right into it and pick Shanali's brain. So, Shanali, let's get into this. What's the difference between marketing and digital marketing?
Sure. So the primary difference, of course, is going to be digital marketing is going to take place across all of your mobile devices, your tablets, your computers, and the vastness of the reach that you can get is tremendous compared to what used to be possible with traditional methods.
For the viewers out there, could you break down what traditional is versus digital?
Yep. So traditional is going to be more of your print marketing, the print media, the flyers, the business cards, billboards, even television advertisements to some extent. And there is some crossover there because as well as being part of traditional marketing, that is still in a way part of digital marketing as well, but it does predate what we're going to be discussing. And so with traditional, the main way that you can identify whether something is a traditional source is going to be from the tracking that's available and possible with it. For instance, you send out 1,000 flyers, you have no idea how many people looked at them, how many people took an action specifically based off of those. Same thing with a billboard. You could pop a billboard on I-4 and get seen by 200,000 people a day, but you don't know how many people actually even paid attention to that advertisement, right? Whereas if you take a look at a digital billboard, for example, which would be your banner ads, that's the equivalent of a billboard on I-4, but you can track exactly how many people clicked on it. They, depending on which company you're going with, you can get information on how many impressions you've had from it. Since you're also in control of the destination as well, you can then get tracking on how many people actually converted from those campaigns. So digital really changed the way that you're able to optimize your marketing and gave us a lot more information on what actions are being taken and how we can improve our own campaigns to that end.
I guess it also allowed you to be more specific in your targeting of advertisements.
Absolutely, yes. So, going back to the billboards idea, you're just blasting it out to everyone. Now, let's say you're a mattress company and you're trying to sell, a new mattress. You don't want to waste time, marketing to people that are not actively looking for that. So, let's say you spend 200,000 sending out all these flyers and billboards, nationwide campaign. You still don't have any tracking from that and no way to hone in on your audience. Whereas with a digital campaign, you could cut that 200,000 down to just 20,000 and run targeted campaigns across Google or Facebook or even Instagram and really go for those people who will be more inclined to actually purchase your service or are actively looking for your product or are actively looking for your product as well.
So technology has basically driven analytics, right? To be able to accentuate the kind of information we get now. And as a result, I presume that falls into the era of digital marketing, right?
Exactly.
So it's really the analytics that's driving this. Is that
Yeah.
Is that how we can look at it?
Absolutely. I think it's the analytics which has also honed in and provided a much better and targeted means of delivery,
Right,
which
right.
wasn't available before, like Shaneli mentioned in the case of the mattress example.
Yeah.
That would not have been possible before.
More of a stab in the dark, right?
Absolutely. It's like you might as well,
Yeah.
it's I think it's the difference between having a shotgun versus a sniper.
So if I was a small retailer in a particular area, and I wanted the local market, that would be fantastic for that, wouldn't it? Because I'd have the analytics, right?
Absolutely. But, also speaking to that point as well, for local businesses and small businesses, the beauty of digital marketing is that it really creates a level playing field. When you're talking about traditional media or traditional marketing, budget is everything. If you don't have a big enough budget to be able to send out, these advertisements, you're never going to be able to get people in your door. Whereas with digital, because you can create hyper targeted audiences, you don't have to spend as much, and that allows you to be a lot more effective with a much smaller budget.
Right. So with that, I think the next thing probably our viewers would like to understand is the current digital landscape. So it's been a while since the advent of digital marketing. I mean, we're way those days of the old Google ads and Meta banners, as you mentioned, are gone effectively. So if you could just give us a glimpse into what it looks like today, and how does an entrepreneur who's just starting his own business begin to grapple with it?
Sure. So think of it as the digital landscape is like this global bustling hub, okay? And it's a marketplace full of services and products, and you're a brand new business or a very small business. It would be very, very difficult for you to break out into that market if you were not utilizing digital. But in the digital age, having an online presence isn't just an option, it's a necessity now. And being able to reach your audience no matter where they are is something that would not have been achievable without digital marketing. Nowhere else or no other platform could you reach some obscure user in Germany when you're selling homemade necklaces in Sanford, Florida.
You're referring to Etsy, aren't you?
I am referring to Etsy.
So
And it's beautiful in the way that it can create it can connect the smallest of sellers with buyers from all across the globe.
so then can you enhance a little bit on the kind of data that's available now as a result of that?
Honestly, absolutely anything you can think of can be collected now in terms of data. Everyone typically will default to thinking of things like Google Analytics, but there are so many analytics programs out there that will allow you to collect whatever data you want. And it does sound scary to some point as well. For instance, I could tell you that today I can track a user that comes to my website. I can actually get their IP address, use that to look up their contact information, and then I could reach out to them proactively if I wanted to. Now, with everyone's concerns about privacy, I don't personally recommend those type of solutions because it will scare the hell out of people who see that. But there are companies out there that utilize tools like that, and then rather than reach out to them, they'll add them to remarketing lists and then advertise to them that way.
So for small startups, really, it's a godsend, right? Because what it does is it allows them to compete with the big players, right?
Yes,
That's huge, isn't it?
it's massive, and
Yeah.
it actually provides them with some advantages over these big companies as well. Because in my experience, I've worked with a couple of enterprise companies in the past, and when we're trying to change campaigns around based on the data that we've seen, you hit a lot of red tape.
Well, because they're not nimble, right?
Exactly. They can't shift directions quickly because you have to go through a chain of command, and then by the time the chain of command approves a change, it could already be too late, and you need to go in another direction.
Well, we've actually talked about that, haven't we? About
Yes, we
being
have.
nimble, right?
Yeah, we have. And I think one of the things that we came across was right at the get go, we need to make sure that you iterate and you are open to change, because
Right.
it is, and not to be afraid of failure, because it is a journey, right? It's not gonna, you're not gonna hit it right the first time.
So that is a huge advantage from my past experience. If you're nimble enough to change quickly, you actually can grab a part of the marketplace that large companies cannot touch because they're way too much red tape, right?
So one of the things that I'm actually thinking about is we've got, we spoke about the landscape. We spoke about the fact that we've got so much data available now, but what's the current landscape looking like? Like, what are people gravitating towards? Are there any specific channels that you would recommend an entrepreneur start with, and then expand their reach over time? And if so, how would they go about doing that?
So the landscape is constantly changing. Just looking at the last 3 years, right? 3 years ago, Instagram was all the buzz. All the companies were advertising on Instagram because that was the place to be. And then a little company out of China came up, and they had Musical.ly. And when COVID hit, they went through a little bit of a change in the type of user generated content, and TikTok was born.
Right.
Now, with TikTok in the early days, I'm talking, 2020 and early 2021, it was still mostly just people doing dancing videos and whatnot. And then towards the latter end of 2021, we started noticing a lot more user generated content that was focused around self help, self care. And then it shifted a little bit further to businesses coming on and providing tips and hints. And now you could find pretty much any type of content or any topic that you want to learn about. You can jump on TikTok, open it up, and find the content there and be able to learn from that. It's actually amazing how much that platform has changed from what it was originally intended for to where it is now. And a lot of the younger generation actually prefer to search for something using TikTok rather than Google.
Mohammed, have you been using TikTok? Be honest.
Well, I think I've been talking, but I'm not sure about ticking. So I have to be honest and say no.
So there you go. So if you want to target people like you, we should not use TikTok.
Absolutely. The other thing that I want to sort of really emphasize is how the digital landscape has changed for consumers, right? They can go anywhere to search, find what they need, and they have a plethora of choices now, right?
Yes.
In the old days, that wasn't the case. Your fingers actually did the walking, and you would have to find your what we used to call yellow pages, or physically go to your retail shops and spend half a day there. But now it's everything from your armchair and an iPad, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Unbelievable. And it's going to continue to evolve, correct?
Yes, and I think a great example of this would be when you look at, the retail market. 20 years ago, if you wanted to buy something, you had to pop down to the shops and find it, and if they didn't have it, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
Back in England, we had Argos, and I was just there a few weeks ago, and what really clicked in my mind at the time was in the 90s and 2000s, Argos was akin to what Amazon is today.
Yeah.
That's the closest we came to it.
Yes, correct.
And, talking about red tape and people not being nimble, Argos had the infrastructure in place to become Amazon. And they missed out.
And they missed out
They
completely.
missed out. And now you have Amazon, and all these different retailers are going down. They weren't able to compete. Amazon does have a habit of, they'll pick out what the top sellers are, and then they'll create their own product for a cheaper price and sell it direct as Amazon Basics. And people just aren't keeping up. There was an interesting story about Target, actually, where they were facing bankruptcy because they were losing a huge market share to Amazon. And at the time, the CEO, I can't remember her name, needed to come up with an idea to try and save the brand. And what they actually did was focused all of their efforts on their website and their deliveries. And I think they created, was it Shipped or Instacart? I can't remember which one.
Right.
But originally it was just for Target, and that's how they also got their foot into the grocery delivery market.
Wow.
And by making these changes and optimizing the online presence and user experience, consumers actually shifted back towards Target away from Amazon. And so it's so important for these companies to keep in touch with where the consumer is growing, because Target foresaw that the consumer behavior was shifting more towards online. And so they rebranded their entire website and entire buying process. And I think that was the only reason that they were saved from essentially having to close their doors to a company like Amazon.
So I think I would like to go back on Argos for a minute, if you don't mind, only because I want our audiences to really embrace what went wrong there, because we've been talking about branding and everything and evolving. So now to think about Argos the way you've just explained, I do recall, because they had fantastic catalogs there and they had it all indexed properly and everything. All they had to do was just completely turn that into a digital platform.
Yeah.
And they would have probably been the Amazon
Yeah.
in the UK at least.
Absolutely.
So-
All you would have had to do was have the catalog on a website, and then they just ship it to your door.
Wow. So that really is very much the case of evolve or die, right?
Yeah.
That's what's happened to Argos.
Exactly.
Wow.
So interesting to note as well, though, they did evolve to some extent, because now you can order from an app or online, but you still have to go there to pick up your product.
So we've spoken about the landscape. We've touched upon how it's evolving. I think one of the other things I want to, and we touched upon some examples as well. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was in our previous episode, we spoke about defining your target market. So a lot of market analysis, primary analysis, secondary analysis. So how would you recommend that a new entrepreneur armed with this information begin an online marketing campaign? So how do they begin? Like the brand is built, they have some creatives going on. How would you recommend they start?
Okay. So it does depend on what industry you're in. Typically, I would recommend an easy place to start is something like Google Ads, because with Google Ads, you're effectively only targeting the people that are actually searching for your product or service. And so it is a very good place for you to find the user intent. And there's a very useful tool that they have inside Google Ads when you launch a campaign, where when you go into the keywords platform, it'll allow you to look at the search terms people are using. And that's very, very useful when you're just starting out and you don't really know what makes your buyer tick. You can look at that report and it'll tell you all the impressions that you got for these different keywords that you may have never thought of. Obviously, you have to do your own keyword research to begin with, and there's a million different ways that you can do that. And there's a ton of free research tools online as well. But the number one thing that I would say is, before you even launch a campaign, you really need to understand who your audience is and what problem are you solving for them, whether it's a product or a service. Because people today, what they care about the most is what you're going to do for them. But then on top of that, there is a layer where you need to make it convenient for them as well. If they have to jump through hoops to justify your product or service to be worthwhile for them, they're not going to take the steps to make that jump. You have to connect the dots for them. And all of that can be done through your copywriting with your advertising.
So one of the other things that we also discussed was, for certain aspects of the business like legal or accounting, compliance, we recommended that the entrepreneur bring in experts. Would you recommend bringing in a marketing agency or at least a digital marketing agency in to do that consulting with the entrepreneur? Because the entrepreneur is so busy getting the business started, making sure his customers are happy, making sure his USP and messaging is right. How would you do it?
In an ideal world, yes, I would love to recommend that you hire a marketing agency from the get-go. From my experience, that doesn't usually yield the best results for a business that's just starting out with their online presence. And the main reason for that is it does come at a cost. And typically with an agency, if you're paying them less than what you would pay a full-time employee, you're not going to get as much time out of it. What I would recommend is, especially if you're right at the beginning, like you don't even have any sales yet and you're just starting out with advertising, go hire a freelancer who's going to help you to launch these ads, because they already have the built-in knowledge and expertise, provided you vet them correctly. But that would be a better way for you to launch your campaigns. And then once you've started to generate income and you're feeling a little bit more comfortable with the direction that you're going in, that's where I would recommend you bring in an agency.
Right.
Another level of that as well is when you bring in a freelancer, they're going to do things according to your plan. When you bring in an agency, they may come in and say, hey, we don't recommend you go this route. You need to go another route. And while that may sound very convincing to you as a new business, the agency doesn't have any background knowledge of your company or your personal ideas of where you want to go.
Well, there is no background knowledge because I've just started. I mean, it's
Exactly.
I've just born. I've just been born, effectively.
So I have a problem with that, if you don't mind. I would like to think, I would have thought that for a new startup, I would prefer to have an agency from day dot, because what it does is it allows me to be able to, if you like, jumpstart my business on the marketing platform. And I rather pay the extra to have a firm on board with me, and maybe try and budget elsewhere where it's possible initially. Because that way, I mean, at the end of the day, marketing is a very large slice.
It's essential. It's essential.
Yes, and so why would I not pay a firm? So as much as I understand where you're coming from, I think my advice to small startup would be concentrate on marketing, because that's going to give you the leap that you need to start with.
So I agree. 100% marketing will be the most important investment you can make in your business.
And most expensive, I would hazard a guess, unless you're one of those businesses that require a lot of equipment right up front, like a kitchen or a restaurant. Yeah.
But your firm is a boutique firm, correct?
Correct.
And they help startups.
We do help startups.
Right.
However, we do have very, very specific criteria on whether a startup qualifies to work with us.
Right.
And the main reason for that is when it's a brand new business, and this comes from our experience knowing how long certain results can take to come in. As a brand new business, you can't really, I mean, maybe you can, but most of the time, you can't really afford to just jump in and pay multiple agencies to come in and take over and push the marketing.
But it's not multiple agencies.
No.
Well, he was mentioning the other experts as well,
Oh, you
right?
mean the other experts?
Yeah. Because you guys were mentioning the other experts earlier
Yes.
on, so I'm taking that into account as well. So as a small business, you're taking on board a lot of overhead to get this off the ground, but you don't really have any revenue to help push that. Now, there will be startups out there where they have starting capital to work with, and in those instances, 100% yes, I agree, get a startup from day one.
But a firm like yours will advise them accordingly, right?
Correct,
So,
yes.
if you feel they're a good fit for taking on a boutique firm like yours, you would be able to tell them whether it's advisable or not, correct?
Yes, correct.
So that way, I think it's fair to say that you have to work with a firm that's, well, ethically aware,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, but I think I get his point as well, Mohammed,
Right.
because I think what he's trying to say is that if you're going to hire a firm, be prepared and have the funds ready, because otherwise it's going to be a waste of your time and their time. In this case, it'll be a waste of your money and your time, and it's great for them. But at the same time, I think what he's trying to say also is that if you are at that stage where you don't have that much capital, there are options available.
No, I understand that fully, and I embrace that immediately, right? What I'm trying to say is that if I'm a brand new entrepreneur and I'm planning my launch, I need to be aware of my budgeting requirements.
Yes.
And whilst we've talked about that already in our series about how serious that is, I think maybe, I would even go on to advise and say, if you don't have enough funds, don't start today. Find some more funds and start when you think you're ready. Because success is what we're talking about here.
I do agree with that last point as well. Because we have had clients come to us where they're launching a product. One of them, they were even launching a disinfecting service during COVID. Can't think of a better combination.
Oh, yeah.
This was prior to anyone else actually even offering this service. And best of all, it was an all natural disinfecting service. So it was safe for use in schools. It had already been approved and everything. They were so early on when they hired us that they didn't even have the website ready. So we had to rebuild. They had a website, but it didn't function the way they needed it to. So they asked us to rebuild a website for them. We got that ready, got it launched. In the meantime, they were already working with 2 different private schools as well as the police department. And their goal was to just expand through the Sanford area. But because they were so early stage, they didn't have funding. It was all funded just out of pocket for them. And they only had 3 customers, for all intents and purposes. And so once it came time to actually launch these campaigns that they've paid us to build, they said, "Oh, we don't have any budget for the campaign, so can you do $500 a month?" They said, "Yeah, you can. You're not going to get anything for it because now you're trying to push out a brand new product at a time when everyone has had to shift to digital. Everyone. And so, whilst your service is not a direct competitor for Clorox are advertising on these keywords because it kills, it might kill coronavirus. Or the other one, Microban. Microban did huge advertising during that time because it's 99% proven to kill coronaviruses. And they were sold out on the shelves in stores because they had that on their bottles because it kills other types of coronaviruses. And so I was trying to explain to them, whilst, yes, they are not your competitors, these products are still going to be advertised to these schools and to these offices because that's all that they can use aside from your service. Like, the market doesn't yet exist for what you're trying to push. And the only way for you to create that market and corner it is to throw your budget into advertising. And instead, they decided they didn't want to do that, then ended their relationship with us, ended up never launching those campaigns, got too focused on wanting to build the perfect website, so they took down our website, built another one, and within 3 months, they ended up closing their doors.
But that's a perfect segue into the next point, which I'd like to touch upon, which is everyone says, have a strong online presence, have a strong online presence. Could you advise us on what that means?
So there's going to be 3 key components to having a strong online presence. So the first is going to be your website. Absolutely, that's the gateway to your business. It's the only place people are going to see you online. The second is to try to be active on social media. Whilst you might have a website, doesn't mean people are going to see you, but social media has so many users that are constantly on there talking. So you need to be active on social media. And then the third is a very strong content marketing strategy. By implementing those 3, you'll be able to build up your online presence. Now, there are other areas as well, but those are the most important because it's going to be what attracts customers to your business. You have your website, that's sort of like your home base. That's the ultimate goal, is to get people there because that is your business online. With social media, by actively engaging users there, you're able to foster conversations with them, and it's something that has never, unless you did focus groups back in the day, like there's no equivalent to that prior to digital marketing. So being active on there allows you to really gauge your audience and understand who they are, what makes them click, why they behave the way they behave. And then with content marketing, you're then able to take the information you've learned from social media and create content that will resonate with them. But because you're active on social media as well, you can then share that content directly to that audience. You don't have to wait for it to get picked up by SEO or advertise and push people there. You can just share it directly to those users and get their feedback on social media about that content as well. So really, between the three of those, that's bare bones. That's what you need to start your online presence. And then obviously, you can expand into other areas. You can create email marketing campaigns and create all these different touch points. And one of the things I always tell my clients is you want to have 7 touch points with your customer before they become a customer. And that's, because once you get to that 7th point, that's where your advertising is going to come in. And that's where you're then able to convert them because they're used to you. You're familiar with they're familiar with you, and they already trust your brand. And that's how important an online presence is.
So someone recently told me that the like is the new word of mouth.
Yes,
Is
I
it?
love that. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Anything else with regards to having a strong online presence? I know you talked about the website, you talked about the social platforms. Are there any social platforms? Because again, in a startup's, in a entrepreneur's mind who's just launching a startup, they don't have a lot of resources, they don't have a lot of time. So, would you recommend one over the other, or is it you need to just blast them all?
Again, it does depend on the industry that you're in. For instance, if you're in home services, I would recommend TikTok. I think TikTok is a great platform for you to create content and get feedback and be able to instantly create more content. Because the thing about TikTok is you just film it with your phone. It doesn't have to be, high production value or anything like that. Literally, you just grab your phone as you're walking around the office and start talking, and people can resonate with that. However, if you're primarily a B2B business, LinkedIn is probably a better option for you. Now, with LinkedIn, I still would recommend video, and I'm guilty of this. I don't do videos myself on LinkedIn, but the platform still has a very, very strong adoption rate for organic posts. And it's one of the few social platforms left where you can reach a vast amount of people organically. And by creating video content there, you're able to engage with that audience. And it's not immediate, but over time you'll build a following on LinkedIn, and that will allow you to then solicit business from them. I know when people think LinkedIn, you just think, oh, I'm just going to send out a message and say, hey, I have this product, you should buy it. And back in the day, that's how it was. But there's so many people now that it's become saturated, and only the companies that are making an effort to stand out by providing value are the ones that are really getting business from the platform now. So that's what I would recommend. With other social platforms, Twitter is one that I think is ever present for everyone.
Really, even now, after what's happened?
Even now, and I know that there is a little bit of blowback with everything that Musk has done with the platform. However, when you look past the politics of all that, it's a fantastic platform that allows you to address issues in real time. And, I don't care what kind of help desk you're using in your business, nothing is faster than Twitter, because Twitter is also public. And so what happens is if one user is having an issue and you've solved that issue publicly, it's going to encourage more people to do business with you because they know you're responsive.
But don't you think that would also have, it's a double-edged sword, that'll have a, the opposite impact where now people are going to think, oh, this company is solving problems online, and you're going to start getting tens of thousands of requests, and you're not equipped for that.
So that's the other thing is you need to have the infrastructure in place to handle that. Now, if at least from my point of view, if you have 10,000 people that have issues, you should have the capacity to address that many issues then. Mainly because you have that many customers. So if you don't have that capacity, but you do have that many support requests, invest in building that infrastructure to address the social platform.
I guess it was the instant nature, because overnight, things can turn on a dime with regards to Twitter.
And so that has happened. I know with Wells Fargo, they had, I think, was it Wells Fargo? The bank had gone down. Their app had gone down. And people were blasting them all over Twitter because it was the only place you could get hold of them. And In a scenario like that, the best way to address it is to provide blanket tweets. And what I mean by that is you're addressing everyone and letting them know, hey, we're aware of the issue and we are working on it, and we'll update you guys once we have a resolution. But simply doing that makes a huge difference because it shows that you are aware that there is an issue actually happening. Conversely, and also ironically, because it's Musk's other company, Tesla had an issue a few months back where the mobile app wasn't working; it wasn't connecting to the cars.
Oh.
Now, I don't know how many of your viewers will be familiar, but most Tesla owners access their car through the phone. Yes, we have keys and card keys, but it's not always around. So there were people who might have been out shopping and they couldn't access
They
the
couldn't
car.
get back in their car.
Couldn't get back in the car. Now, Tesla famously does not have a PR branch.
Yes.
And so you can't get hold of them. And so you're sending in support requests and you're just getting nothing back. And it's ironic because he literally owns Twitter now and they still don't even utilize Twitter for that, at least that purpose. And so that's one of the areas where you have to be able to address these concerns in real time. And even though you may get inundated with 10,000 plus requests overnight, it's still so important for you to have the opportunity to respond to that. And you can respond to everyone at once. Now, that being said as well, on the flip side, going back to the positives, being active on Twitter can be huge for your brand. One of my favorite Twitter accounts to follow is Wendy's. And the reason for that is how savage they are with their tweets.
Really?
And I've shared a link, so maybe we can include it in the description for the video. But some of the tweets that these guys have put out are absolutely hilarious. And do you remember in the old days, you used to have, in small towns, you used to have those billboard fights between companies?
Yes.
So Wendy's took that to like a whole nother level, especially with McDonald's and Burger King. And so there was one where someone had posted, I want Wendy's, but my girlfriend wants McDonald's. What do I do? And Wendy's just goes, oh, there are plenty of fish in the sea. Essentially saying, find another girlfriend.
Yeah,
There was another one where it was Black Friday. McDonald's tweeted this. Now, this is the perfect tweet because it shows you what happens when you're not equipped for Twitter and what happens when you're sharply equipped. So McDonald's tweeted out Black Friday, ***, need copy and link, ***. In other words, someone published the tweet without getting the actual copy and link for the tweet.
Wow.
So Wendy's goes, when the tweets are as broken as the ice cream machine. So, that one little interaction there shows you the two very different sides of
I would, if I was McDonald's, I would have found out who's answering these tweets and take them on board.
Seriously.
Because obviously somebody's got a wicked sense of humor.
Absolutely. And I think that's such a beautiful way of using Twitter because previously you never would have thought of Wendy's as being, snarky or
No.
quick with the quips.
Quick-witted, yeah.
Yeah.
Quick-witted, yeah.
So another one here, if the beef is never frozen, how do you guys keep it fresh? Right? They posted, and it's all separate, spaced out, and it was refrigerators.
Right. Okay, I think one of the other things I want to touch upon is, because we talked a lot about digital, is there any room in today's world for the old email and SMS marketing campaigns?
Absolutely. And so this is, for me, I feel like email and SMS are very similar, but they're also very different. So now, SMS, I firmly believe, is something you should utilize once someone has become a customer. Because it allows you to blast out these promotional offers that you might be having, or reminders. Maybe you have a recurring service, but they have to place the order. It allows you to send out reminders for that. If you're an e-commerce company, it allows you to text them reminders for the product. Or for FedEx, for example, they text you notifications for your tracking. Like, all of that is encompassed in SMS marketing. And so I think SMS is extremely important post-transaction.
So you took the words out of my mouth. It was, so you use those two mediums generally to communicate with your customers,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Why not use Twitter? Because that sounds like I can use Twitter as well. But is it because it's public? I mean, I don't want people to know that I'm receiving a package. I guess maybe that's why.
Exactly. And even from a promotional standpoint as well, the thing with Twitter is it still requires them to go to the app and then view your tweet. Whereas with a text message, they don't even have to open it because once you get that notification, you know it's there and it already has created this like mental reminder that I need to check out, Nominal is doing 20% off. I need to check it out.
Right.
And so it's already embedded in your mind because you don't even have to look at it. But also, the open rates on SMS are vastly higher than any other platform out there, including email marketing.
I'm assuming that when you say SMS, that includes WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger as well, because those are the similar. I mean, people. I've seen a lot of people use them interchangeably.
Yeah, so with WhatsApp, I would say yes. With Facebook Messenger, just based on my experience with it, I would still group that closer towards the social media marketing than I would with the SMS. Just because I'm not aware of just how high the adoption rate has been for that as a primary messaging platform. But I know WhatsApp globally is only second to SMS. So it makes sense that WhatsApp would be in the same category as SMS. However, that being said, I don't think many SMS platforms actually blast out to WhatsApp. But you can always use WhatsApp Business and have achieve the same thing because you can create broadcasts.
So I do have one particular topic that I would like a very brief discussion on, if you don't mind, and that's search engine optimization.
Yeah. So SEO is extremely important for any business. Um, Even more important for new businesses. However, the reason I think it gets left in the wayside quite a lot of the time is because in this society, we all want that instant gratification. And SEO does not grant you that. It's something that you have to take on board and you look at it as an investment in the growth of your company long term rather than an expense for short term growth, which is how most small businesses do view it. And so SEO works really well when you pair it with pay per click because it allows you to get the instant gratification from the pay per click whilst you're still investing in the long term through SEO. And so SEO is what allows you to show up in search engines when someone searches for any particular.
In terms of, you're talking about organic, right?
Organic,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you go into Google, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think for the viewers, basically these are searches that a person might do for best furniture, couch, leather, those kind of searches that they either do on Google or other like maybe Bing or some other of the
Exactly.
search engines, right?
Exactly. Yes. And so that's why it's so important for a new company to understand their audience first. Because, like you had just mentioned, the keywords that you mentioned, right? Best furniture or best mattress or best HVAC unit.
Right.
When you do those searches, one thing you'll notice is the sheer size of the companies that are actually ranking in the first 10. And as a new business, I can honestly say you don't really have a hope in hell to be able to outrank them right away. And it may take you a couple of years to be able to get to that point. So what?
But they won't do that unless they start from get go, right?
Correct. But it depends on the keywords that you're targeting as well. You've got to go after what makes your audience tick. Now, transactional keywords like the ones you mentioned are primarily for the people who are already at the end of their funnel. And whilst, yes, you do still want to rank organically for that, most transactional keywords end in a click on an ad. And so if you're investing your time in SEO to rank for these transactional keywords, it's most of the time it's going to be in vain because they're going to still end up clicking on an ad to make their purchase anyway. And so what you want to do is pair pay-per-click with SEO, where SEO is targeting higher up in the funnel. It's the more informational searches.
Right.
And then your pay-per-click is targeting the transactional
Keywords,
searches.
right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Because what happens before someone searches for a transactional keyword? They're searching for all the information before to make an informed decision.
Comes in, right?
Exactly. So if they see you ranking everywhere for these informational keywords, when it comes to PPC, you may not rank position 1, 2, or 3. You might be ranked in position 4 for one of the ads. But because they've seen your name, they'll click on your ad.
Shanley, you've just described something that I know no entrepreneur will understand because he's just too busy running their own business. I actually am tending to now agree more with Mohammed on hiring that agency. We'll need an expert. I mean, the guy doesn't, he's not going to know these nuances between pay per click and SEO and what you need to do. Only an expert can provide that. And I know you mentioned we can hire a freelancer to start off with, but I don't think that's a viable option for many of these entrepreneurs because I don't think they'll be able to trust. Number one is trust, right? Sure, I can go onto sites like Fiverr and find someone, but how do I know they're going to do it for me the correct way?
And also, am I correct in assuming that the entrepreneur will only know in maybe 2 years' time that he should have done SEO from day one, right? When it doesn't show up organically.
And that's why I go back to what we discussed
I concur,
earlier.
totally.
What we discussed earlier was around you need certain experts. You need a legal person. You can't become a lawyer, right? Because you're running a business.
Absolutely not.
You're not going to become an accountant. You might be strong. You might have a strong financial background, but you're not going to become an accountant and understand all the different FPRS laws that are there that you need to adhere to. You're not going to become a compliance officer and be ready to certify yourself at ISO 9001, right?
Yep.
I think this falls into that bucket as well. What are your thoughts?
So what I hear when you both are agreeing on that point is a concurrence that taking on the initiative of launching marketing campaigns needs to be seen as an investment for the future.
Correct.
And if you are going to invest, you need to invest correctly. So the solution that I had provided of finding a freelancer, honestly, is the path of it's the cheapest path to get your foot in the door. I do concur, hopefully, that an agency will do a better job for you. But a lot of the time, the market itself doesn't feel that way. And so, from what you guys are saying, is basically the struggle that agencies have had from the beginning of the advent of the first agency, which is small businesses are the ones who need us the most, but they're the ones who can afford us the least.
Well, having said that, we're giving back to our audiences. This is everything that we've done in the past experience. We want them to start their business on a really strong footing. And for that reason, we're obviously going to take the platform that allows them to grow strongly from a terrific start. And for that reason, we want them to have that budget, right?
Absolutely, I think so. But I also have, realized something. We've just discovered a gap in the market.
It's funny you mentioned that because we did launch a brand a couple of years ago under the guise of Mr. Market King. And the idea behind that was to provide valuable marketing data, information, and guidance to small businesses. At the time, to hire our agency, we had back then it was a 10-hour minimum. So you're looking at $1,000 a month, and some of the potential clients that we were talking to at the time couldn't even afford that. And so what we did was we came up with a solution where we provide them with unlimited marketing consultancy, and I think the rate I might be putting my foot in my mouth at this point, but I think it was around $249 a month or $299 a month, and that was that was the highest plan. The
Can I have 10
was
of those,
$99.
please?
I mean, sure, but one is the same as 10, but you can pay me 10 times as much.
So I think the gap is definitely there, and maybe what we need to do is look at how we can help, because what Mohammed mentioned, we want to pay it forward now. So if at all something is out there, maybe you're starting something, or maybe you have knowledge. We can put that up in the show notes. So I think our audience would really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Shalini, we've gone quite a bit, and thank you very much for being with us. However, I do want to cover one last topic before we wrap up, and that is now that we've described the landscape, we've talked about online presence, we've talked about digital marketing versus traditional marketing, email campaigns. How does all of this now link back to one of the things that we have discussed in our previous episodes of technology, which is the customer relationship management software.
So earlier on, we discussed how important analytics was, right? Analytics data by itself is only 50% of the picture. The rest of that image comes from your CRM because you have the data from analytics, but what are you going to do with it? You need to be able to analyze that data effectively and connect it with actions that your customers have taken, as well as repeat actions. One of the metrics that agencies love to report on is lifetime value of a customer. That metric is impossible to track without a CRM. And so CRMs are absolutely vital even before you've launched any campaigns because the CRM actually integrates with every single campaign that you put out there. You can create tracking links, you can create your URL parameters or UTM parameters and link everything through your CRM. So any action that's taken gets reported in the CRM. Now, some CRMs also come with their own, sort of like analytics, and actually it can provide you with even more information than what you can collect from Google Analytics. So, for instance, with Google Analytics, it can tell you, this keyword gave you, this many conversions. Okay, great. With a CRM, though, it can tell you this keyword when searched from this location and searched by this customer is what gave you this conversion. Now you can start to see patterns in that data. And then based on those patterns, you can recreate these campaigns using those patterns that you have and get even better results out of it. Another thing as well is the CRM, depending on what your platform is, it allows you to better understand your overall audience or customers' behavior, where that's data that you cannot pull from anywhere else. It's information on how they're interacting with your ordering process. It's information on how many touch points it's taking, how many times are they, submitting a lead form before they actually become a customer. How many times did you email them before they became a customer? Maybe if you email them twice, they don't become a customer, but if you email them once and send them a text once, they do become a customer. Those are the kind of trends and patterns that you can only find by implementing a CRM. One of my favorite CRMs that I have used is HubSpot. I love HubSpot, especially for small businesses, because they do provide a free CRM at the beginning, and then you can scale up as your business scales up. I do believe they charge, I think it's almost $1,000 a month for the plan that has everything else. But there's a lot of options out there, and absolutely CRM is the most important thing aside from analytics.
I think that's important because one of the topics that we discussed as well was, don't be seduced by this huge big CRMs or software that give you everything under the sun, because as a startup you may not use all that functionality from the get-go. So coming back to what you've just said, it sounds like what the CRM will do in this instance is it's going to link your advertising to your sales data and give you that pattern that says, if I do A, B, C, and X, it will give me the most amount of sales rather than X, Y, Z, A, for example.
Exactly. Okay.
Thank you again, Shanli, for your time. Mohammed, is there anything else you'd like to ask Shanli?
No, I'm well satisfied right now.
Right. So, Shanli, you want to talk about your agency and what you provide customers?
Sure. So we are a full-service digital marketing agency. We're based here in Sanford, Florida. Initially, we started out primarily servicing healthcare companies, and then branched out into several different industries as well. So at this point, we can pretty much take on a client from any industry wherever they are. As Mohammed mentioned earlier, we are a boutique agency, which means we work with a very small number of clients at any given time. I don't want my team to ever feel stretched too thin. We want to be able to spend as much time as possible with each client. One of the things we also do is we don't bill you for meetings. Whether we sit in a 2-hour meeting, which please, it can be a bit much, but we will do it.
You open the door.
We will do it, but we do not bill for it. But we try not to limit our time with our clients because the most important thing for us is to understand you and your business. And the only way we can do that is to speak with you. We work with clients from all over the world. We are primarily focused in the US. However, we've had clients from as far as South Africa. So, with the services that we offer, we focus on SEO and pay-per-click because SEO is my background. I've been in the SEO world for about 15 years now. Pay-per-click, I've been in for about 17 actually. However, not every client needs pay-per-click. And so SEO has been the primary service there. We do a little bit of email marketing and SMS marketing as well, depending on who the client is and what their needs are. And then also web design and development. Initially, we didn't care about building websites, and it sort of just became a necessity because we started getting these clients coming in saying, well, we don't want to hire someone else, so can you just build it for us?
I was going to say what we've discussed here, just it's a natural fit.
Exactly, yeah. And the benefit of that as well is we can then build it exactly to our specifications and what we know will benefit your business.
So, Shanali, what if our viewers want to get in touch with you? How do they do that?
Sure. So the best way to actually get in touch with us is going to be by visiting our website. So you visit simplysearch.com, and we have a quote request button at the top. You fill out that information. It takes about 7 minutes, and provides us with all of the background information that we need on you and your business. And then we'll actually perform an audit and create a strategy even before our first call. So that way, once we get on a call with you, we can then discuss these specifics and come up with a plan that will suit you and your business's needs.
Perfect. Thank you. So, viewers, this episode has been slightly longer than our previous engagements. Thank you once again for joining us. The next episode is all about the importance of a strong support network. See you next time, and don't forget to subscribe. Mohammed, thank you. Stanley, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
It's goodbye from him and goodbye from me.